So give me 1 minute. Okay, here we go. Yoga Sutra, Book 2, Sutra 20. Namaste. Byang Kyang Tam Durushyamata Durashutvaha Sivarupam Vataranul Tamidamara Pyate Durashutva Durushima Duraha Durashutvan Durushima Duraha Shudutopi Pratyayanupashyaha Durushima Dura Iti Duroko Shakatiravan Visheshana Param Murashutva Dialtaha Durishima Dura Iti Duruk from the beginning. Byang Kyang Tam Durushyamata Durashutvaha Sivarupam Vataranul Tamidamara Pyate Durashutva Durushima Duraha Shudutopi Pratyayanupashyaha Durushima Dura Iti Duroko Shakatiravan Visheshana Paramuro Shutta Dialtaha Murasutwe Dialtaha. Double checking. Durushima Dura Iti Duroko Shakatiravan Visheshana Paramuro Shutta Dialtaha San Purusho Buddhateha Prati Sambedi San Buddhatelna Sarupo Na Dhyananta Tam San Buddhatelna Sarupo Na Dhyanantam Virupa Iti Na Ta Vata Sarupaha Kasamat Jinyatang Jinyata Vishayata Vangata Jinyatang Jinyata Vishayata Vishwa Jinyatang Jinyata Vishayata Vangata Parina Mini Hi Buddhatiha Tasyang Shechang Vishayo Gava Tilkhata Dilvang Jinyan Dashechang Jinyan Dashechati Parina Mitavam Dashayati. Change. Dishechang. Dishechang. Okay. First version again. Tasyang Shechang Vishayo Gava Tilkhata Dilvang Jinyan Dashechati Jinya Dashechang Jinya Dashechati Dashayati Tasyang Shechang Vishayo Gava Tilkhata Dilvang Jinya Dashechang Jinya Dashechati Parina Mitavam Dashayati. No, second version. The Dishechang. Chinyata, chinyata, and there's another change. Is that it? Another one. Di chinyang, di shita, di chinyang, jijinita. It's really confusing. So two changes. Di chini, di chin, di. Doesn't make sense. Dil chata, dil jinyata. Oh, okay. So it goes from dil jinyata. Okay. second version. Tasyang shichang bishoyo gava tekata dishichang. So that might not be the correct version. Tasyang shichang bishoyo gava tekata dishichang chinya tashijati parina mitavam tashayati. Yeah, okay. So now third version. Tasyang shichang bishoyo gava dil Tasyang shichang bishoyo gava tilkata dil jinyata. Tasyang shichang bishoyo gava tilkata dil jinyata. Tasyang shichang bishoyo gava tilkata dil jinyata shichang jinyata shichati. Yeah, okay. Third version. Again, Tasyang shichang bishoyo gava tilkata dishit. Tasyang shichang bishoyo gava tilkata dil jinyata. Tasyang shichang bishoyo gava tilkata dil jinyata. Tasyang shichang bishoyo gava tilkata dil jinyata shichang jinyata shichati. Tasyang shichang bishoyo gava tilkata dil jinyata shichang jinyata shichang jinyata shichati. Tasyang shichang bishoyo gava tilkata dil jinyata shichang jinyata shichati parina mitavam tashayati. Once more. Tasyang shichang bishoyo gava tilkata dil jinyata shichang jinyata shichati parina mitavam tashayati. Okay, that covers everything. Probably the first version is correct. Sadang jinyata bishoyatavam tu purushasya parina mitavam pariti payati. Kasmat nahi buddhati shichang nama purusha vishaya shichang syada grahitang jati siddhatam purushasya sadang jinyata vishayatavam tata shichang parina mitavamiti. Okay, two changes. Devahitang parahitang. I want to look at such. So the third version skips grahitang. Second version is a whole syadavahitang parahitang. Syadavahitang prahi. What is it? Syadavahitang prahitang. Syadavahitang. Okay, second version. Syadavahitang parahitang. Nahi buddhati shichang nama purusha vishaya shichang syada grahitang. Oh. Syadavahitang. Nahi buddhati shichang nama purusha vishaya shichang syadavahitang. Oh my fucking god. They should have put the word in there, you know. Syadavahitang, syadavahitang, syadavahitang. Nahi buddhati shichang nama purusha vishaya shichang syadavahitang grahitang. Doesn't make sense. Prahita. Okay, my mistake. Not really. Nahi buddhati shichang nama purusha vishaya shichang syadavahitang. Nahi buddhati shichang nama purusha vishaya shichang syadagrahi. Oh my fucking god. Vahitang, syadavahitang. Purahitam. Nahi Buddha Nama Purusha Vishayashitan Syadavahitam Guruhi. Purahitam. This is what I get. Somebody's lazy. Nahi Buddha Nama Purusha Vishayashitan Syadavahitam Purahitam Guruhitam Jati Siddhatam Purushasya Sadang Jinyata Vishayatavam Tatasachang Parina Mitavam Miti. Okay, third version. Nahi Buddha Nama Purusha Vishayashitam Syada Guruhitam Jati Siddhatam Purushasya Sadang Jinyata Vishayatavam Tatashachang Parina Mitavamiti. Want to do the second version again. Nahi Buddha Nama Purusha Vishayashitam Syadavahitam Nahi Buddha Nama Purusha Vishayashitam Syadavahitam Parahitam Guruhitam Jati Siddhatam Purushasya Sadang Jinyata Vishayatavam Tatasachang Parina Mitavamiti. Moving on. Kim Chang Paral Tham Buddhatiha Samhatyaka Ritavangate Savaltaha Purusha Iti. Tatang Savalta Diavasa Yatavangasta Vatatariguna Buddhatisattariguna Tavada Jataneti. Tatang Savalta Diavasa Yataga Yatavang Yakatavang Tatang Savalta Diavasa Yakat Tatang Savalta Diavasa Yakatavas Tatariguna Vatatariguna Tatang Savalta Diavasa Yavang Tatang Savalta Diavasa Yakat Tatang Savalta Diavasa Yakatava Tatariguna Buddhatisattariguna Tavada Jataneti. Almost. Tatang Savalta Diavasa Yakat Sayakat Tatang Savalta Diavasa Yakat Tatang Savalta Diavasa Yakat Vatatariguna Buddhatisattariguna Tavada Jataneti. Tatang Savalta Diavasa Yatakat Tatang Savalta Diavasa Yakatava Tatariguna Buddhatisattariguna Tavada Jataneti. Gunanam Tu Padarashata Purusha Ityato Na Sarupaha. Gunanam Tu Padarashata Purusha Ityato Na Sarupaha. Asutu Tahi Virupanga Asutu Tahi Virupanga Iti. Asutu Tahi Asutu Tahi Virupanga Iti. Natyanantam Virupaha Tasamata Shuddhato Pyasau Shuddhato Pyasau Pratyayanupasyo Yataha Pratyayam Bauddhamanupashyati Tamanupashyana Natadanga Tamapapi Pratyayam Bauddhamanupashyati Tamanupashyana Natadanga Tamapi Tatatamaka Ivam Paratyavapha Satem Tatangam Jokutama Aparinamini Hi Pogotoro Shakatira Parati Samkramangai Ja Parinamitiarte Parati Samkranantana Devam Tadavurata Tirati Tadavurata Timanu Patati. Going from here to there again. 1 second. I want to see what this guy did. Yeah, he divided it. So I'm going to divide it 2 sections. That time, Jokotama Aparinamini Hi Pogotara Shakatiram. That time, Jokotama Aparinamini Hi Pogotara Shakatira Prati Samkramangai Ja Parinaminiarte Prati Samkranantava Tadavurata Timanu Tadavurata Timanu Tadavurata Timanu Patati. Almost. The time Jokotama Aparinamini Hi Pogotara Shakatira Prati Samkramangai Ja Parinaminiarte Prati Samkranantava Tadavurata Timanu Patati. Tasyang Shechang Purapatachayita Neopagraharu Pangayang Buddhativurata Teranukarama Taratatang Tayang Buddhativurata Tiang Bishishurta Hichinyatna Buddhata Tiritya Kyayate. Another version too. Buddhata Tiang. Okay. So triple. Yeah. Here we go. Once again. Mic check. Tasyang Shechang Prapata Chaitanya Pagraharu Pangayang Buddhativurata Teranukarama Taratayang Buddhativurata Tiabhishishurta Hi Chinyata Jinyana Buddhata Tiritya Kyayate. Almost. Tasyang Shechang Prapata Chaitanya Pagraharu Pangayang Buddhativurata Teranukarama Taratayang Buddhativurata Tiabhishishurta Hi Chinyana Buddhata Tiritya Kyayatem. Okay, now second version. What was it? Buddhata Tiang triple. Okay. Tasyang Shechang Prapata Chaitanya Pagraharu Pangayang Buddhativurata Teranukarama Taratayang Buddhativurata Tiang Vishishurta Hi Chinyana Buddhata Tiritya Kyayate. Almost. Tasyang Shechang Prapata Chaitanya Pagraharu Pangayang Buddhativurata Terang. Tasyang Shechang Prapata Chaitanya Pagraharu Pangayang Buddhativurata Teranukarama Taratayang Buddhativurata Tiang Vishishurta Hi Chinyana Buddhata Tiritya Kyayate. Same, I made the same mistake. Once more. Tasyang Shechang Prapata Chaitanya Pagraharu Pangayang Buddhativurata Tasyang Shechang Prapata Chaitanya Pagraharu Pangayang Buddhativurata Teranukarama Taratayang Buddhativurata Tiang Vishishurta Hi Chinyana Buddhata Tiritya Kyayate. Once more, I'm gonna take a break. Tasyang Shechang Prapata Tasyang Shechang Prapata Chaitanya Pagraharu Pangayang Buddhativurata Teranukarama Taratayang Buddhativurata Tiang Vishishurta Hi Chinyana Buddhata Tiritya Kyayatem. I'm not even, you know what? Maybe the second version's wrong. It's impossible for me to say it. Once more. Tasyang Shechang Prapata Chaitanya Tasyang Shechang Prapata Chaitanya Pagraharu Pangayang Buddhati Buddhateran Buddhateran. I'm gonna take a break soon. Tasyam Shicham Parapata Chaitanya Pagaraharu Payang Buddhati Buddhateran Dukarama Taratayang Buddhati Buddhatiyan Vishishita Hi Chinyana Buddhatiritiyan Kyayata Chinyana Buddhatiritiyan Kyayata. You know what? I cannot say Buddhatiritiya. Something happened. I don't know what happened. Something happened. I cannot say Chinyana Buddhati. Chinyana Buddhatiritiyan Kyayata. For some reason, I cannot say it. Something happened. So I don't know what happened, but that's what I'm having trouble with. I might take a break. Actually, I don't want this session to go on for hours. I want to, start, finish as soon as possible. But, often it goes on for hours because something happens, and I cannot say, I cannot say that for some reason. So I'm going to take a break. Very angry. Very, very angry. Alright, I'm back. Alright, second version again. Namaste. Tasya Shecham Parapada Tasya Shecham Parapada Chaitanya Pagraharu Payang Buddhati Puraturat Taram Tasya Shecham Parapada Chaitanya Pagraharu Payang Buddhati Puratara Nukaram Tasya Shecham Parapada Chaitanya Pagraharu Payang Buddhati Puratara Nukarama Taratayang Buddhati Puratatiyan Vishishita He Chinyana Puratadityan Kyayatem. For some reason I can't say that now. Alright, first version again. Tasya Shecham Parapadam Tasya Shecham Parapada Chaitanya Pagraharu Payang Buddhati Puratataranukara Taratayang Buddhati Puratatiya Vishishita He Chinyana Puratadityan Kyayate. I cannot say both versions. It's really unfortunate. Tasya Shecham Parapada Chaitanya Pagraharu Payang Buddhati Puratataranukara Taratayang Buddhati Puratadityan Tasya Shecham Parapada Chaitanya Pagraharu Payang Buddhati Puratataranukara Taratayang Buddhati Puratatiyan Vishishita He Chinyana Purataditya Kyayatem. Once more. Tasya Shecham Parapada Chaitanya Pagraharu Payang Buddhati Puratataranukara Taratayang Buddhati Puratatiyan Vishishita He Chinyana Purataditya Kyayatem. I can't believe it. So I'm gonna cry. I can't say Chinyana Purataditya Kyayate anymore. Chinyana Puratati Chinyana Purataditya Kyayate. There you go. Okay. Tasya Shecham Parapada Chaitanya Pagraharu Payang Buddhati Puratataranukara Taratayang Buddhati Puratatiyan Vishishita He Chinyana Purataditya Kyayate. Purataditya Tasya Shecham Parapada Chaitanya Pagraharu Payang Buddhati Puratataranukara Taratayang Buddhati Tasya Shecham Parapada Chaitanya Pagraharu Payang Buddhati Puratataranukara Taratayang Buddhati Puratatiyan Vishishita He Chinyana Purataditya Kyayatem. Almost. I apologize. It's not my fault. Tasya Shecham Parapada Tasya Shecham Parapada Chaitanya Pagraharu Payang Buddhati Puratataranukara Taratayang Buddhati Puratatiyan Vishishita He Chinyana Purataditya Kyayatem. Tasya Shecham Parapada Chaitanya Pagraharu Payang Buddhati Puratataranukara Taratayang Buddhati Puratatiyan Vishishita He Chinyana Purataditya Kyayatem. Puratati Tasya Shecham Parapada Chaitanya Pagraharu Payang Buddhati Puratataranukara Taratayang Buddhati Puratatiyan Vishishita He Chinyana Purataditya Kyayatem. Okay, that one passed. Moving on. The perceivable has been described. Now it is taken up with the purpose of ascertaining the character of the perceiver. The perceiver is the perceptivity itself. Although pure, he becomes the agent of notion. The perceptivity itself means the power of the pure perceptivity, that is, untouched by attribute. This is the meaning. This Purusha is the reflective knower of the intellect. Neither he is similar nor extremely dissimilar to the intellect. He is not similar. Why? On account of the nature of the cognitive and the incognitive spheres, the intellect is indeed changeful. Further, its sphere, the cow, etc., the jar, etc., that is, the cognitive and the incognitive, shows its changefulness. On the other hand, the nature of the cognitive sphere elucidates for all time the unchangefulness of the Purusha. Why? Because the intellect indeed can never be the non-receiver, and the sphere of the Purusha can never be the receiver. Hence, in regard to the Purusha, the nature of the cognitive sphere is ever established, thence also the unchangefulness. What more, the intellect is possessed of the interest of the other on account of its action by combination. The Purusha is possessed of the interest of his own. Similarly, on account of having the nature of the determinative cause of all objects, the intellect consists of the three energies, and having the quality of the three energies, it is unconscious. On the other hand, the Purusha is the supervisor of the energies, so he is not similar. Then let him be dissimilar. No, he is not extremely dissimilar. Why? Although he is pure, he becomes the agent of notion. As the notion enters into the intellectual, the Purusha instrumentally seeing it, appears to be of that nature, although he is not the same. So also it has been said. In fact, the power of the enjoyer is unchangeable and unmoving. Further, with the relation to the changeful object, that follows this function as it were changed into this. Moreover, this is said to be the operation of the consciousness, and is in fact unqualified by the intellective. Moreover, this is said to be the operation of the consciousness, and is in fact unqualified by the intellectual function. It simply imitates the operation of the intellect that has obtained the favorite form of the consciousness. Okay, second translation. The Sutra is begun with the intent of determining the various forms of the aspects, the objects of sight, the particularized and the unparticularized, and the unresoluble, the particularized and the unparticularized, and the resoluble only, and the particularized and the unparticularized, and the resoluble only, and irresoluble. Primary matter are the divisions of the aspects. Of these, the elements air and wind and fire and water and earth are the particularized. Of the unparticularized, fine elements, sound and touch and color and taste and smell. Similarly, the organs of the thinking substance are ear and skin and eye and tongue and nose, and the organs of action, voice and hands and feet, an organ of excretion, an organ of generation. And as the 11th, the central organ which has all kinds of things as its intended object. These are the particularized of the unparticularized, which is characterized as having the feeling of personality. This is the 16-fold mutation of the aspects. The unparticularized are 6, namely, the fine element of sound, and the fine element of touch, and the fine element of color, and the fine element of taste, and the fine element of smell. Thus, as we know, sound and the rest with 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 distinguishing characteristics are 5 unparticularized things. And the sixth is that of which we can only say that it is the feeling of personality. These are the six unparticularized forms of the great thinking substance of whose being we can only say that it exists. That which is prior to the unparticularized things is that of which we can only say that it is resoluble, the great substance. Remaining in this great being of which all that we can say is that it exists, these unparticularized things experience the limit of development. And reversing the process of creation, they remain in that same great being of which all that we can say is that it exists, and revert to that which has neither existence nor non-existence, from which both existence and non-existence have been removed, from which non-existence has been removed, to the unphenomenalized and unresoluble primary cause. This is the mutation of these aspects, and that which has neither existence nor non-existence is the mutation which is unresoluble. So the purpose of the self is not the reason for the unresoluble state. Since the fact that the self has a purpose is not known at the beginning as the cause of the state unresoluble, therefore the fact that the self has a purpose is not a cause of this. And since that state is not affected by the purpose of the self, it is called permanent. But at the beginning of the three states that are particularized, the fact that the self has a purpose is known to be the cause. And this purpose is known to act as purpose and as efficient cause. Hence this state is called impermanent. But the aspects, which conform themselves to all kinds of external aspects, neither cease to be nor come into being, but appear as if they had the properties of coming into existence and of passing out of existence by reason of the phenomenalized forms, past and yet to come, going and coming, inseparably connected with the aspects. Can you hear that? Torture. That's known as torture. Hence, this state is called impermanent. But the aspects, which conform themselves to all kinds of external aspects, neither cease to be nor come into being, but appear as if they had the properties of coming into existence and of passing out of existence by the reason of the phenomenalized forms, past and yet to come, going and coming, inseparably connected with the aspects. As for example, we say, Devadatta is poor. Why? Because his cows are dying. Since his poverty is due to the dying of his cows and not to his loss of himself, the parallel applies. That of which we can only say that it is resoluble is next to that which is irresoluble. From therein it becomes distinguished from it, since the order is not transgressed. Likewise, the six unparticularized things formed in that of which we can only say that it is resoluble become distinguished, because the order of mutations is fixed. Similarly, the elements and organs formed in these unparticularized things become distinguished, as has been already described. There is no other entity beyond the particularized things. There is no other entity beyond the particularized things. So there is no mutation into any other entity beyond the particularized. I can't say So there is no mutation into any other entity beyond the particularized. But their mutation into external aspect and time variation and intensity are to be explained later. Okay. Veda next, thank you. I wish the noise would stop. Dear God, in King Yaosha's name, please stop. the harassment. Please stop the torture. Please stop this evil, evil, evil creatures. Oh wow. You know what? So I messed up. I read the wrong section. So that was the section that belonged before. This is what happens when I get harassed. Every time I do this, someone's chimping out. More than one. Every time I do this, more than one creature is chimping out. Every time I do this, more than one creature is chimping out. They are chimping out. Every time I do this, they're chimping out. And what happens? I read the wrong section. So I'm gonna read this one. I have to take a break. This is gonna be a 5-hour section, 5-hour session. I didn't intend it that way. I want it to be just 1 hour, 2 hours max. But you know, I get harassed. The people chimp out. Every time I do this, more than one person is chimping out, harassing me, chimping out, fucking chimping out like a chimp. All right, 2 minutes, thank you. Sorry about that. Read the wrong section, and it's not my fault. That's the important part. Is you know, people are fucking chimping out every time I do this. And what's gonna happen to me? I'm gonna be the wrong thing. All right, once more. Translation for 20. The object of sight has been explained. Now the Sutra is introduced with the intent of determining what the seer as such is. The seer, who is nothing but seeing, although undefiled, looks upon the presented idea. Who is nothing but seeing means who is nothing but the power of seeing, untouched by any qualifications. This self becomes conscious by reflection of the thinking substance. It is not homogeneous with the thinking substance, nor utterly heterogeneous. Why is he not even heterogeneous? Because the thinking substance is something that enters into mutations, inasmuch as an object is known or not known. And the fact that an object, for instance, a cow or a water jar, is sometimes known and sometimes not known, proves that the thinking substance is something which enters into mutations. Whereas the fact that, in the case of the self, its object is always known, proves that the self does not enter into mutations. Why? Because it surely is not possible for the thinking substance to be an object to the self, and at the same time be something now comprehended and something again not comprehended. Hence it is proved that the self always knows its object. And from this it follows that the self does not enter into mutations. Moreover, the thinking substance exists for the sake of another, since it acts by combining causes, whereas the self exists for its own sake. Thus, the thinking substance is a complex of the three aspects because it determines each thing. And since it consists of the three aspects, it is inanimate. The self, on the other hand, is that which later beholds the aspects. Hence it is not homogeneous. Hence it is not homogeneous with it. Then suppose the self to be heterogeneous. It is not utterly heterogeneous. Why? Because though pure in itself, the self beholds the presented ideas, that is to say, it beholds that which is the presented idea of thinking substance. Looking upon this, the self seems to be it, although it really is not it. And in this sense, it has been said, for the power of the enjoyer enters not into mutation, nor unites. Seeming to unite with the thing in mutation, it conforms itself to the fluctuation. And it is commonly termed the fluctuation of the thinking substance, insofar as it resembles a fluctuation of thinking substance that has come under the influence of the intelligence. I'm going to read it again. And it is commonly termed the fluctuation of the thinking substance, insofar as it resembles a fluctuation of thinking substance that has come under the influence of intelligence. Okay, now I'm moving on. Oof. Veda. I'm trying to make my life into hell, you know. Stupid. People chimp out when I do this. People fucking chimp out. Can you imagine that? People chimp out when I read this shit. People fucking chimp out. Fucking chimps. They fucking chimp out when I read this shit. No more than a fucking chimp. You know, I read this shit and people are chimping out. They're fucking chimping out. People are fucking chimping out because I'm reading this shit. Okay. Bhagavatam, Book 6, Hymn 27. I'm gonna do the best I can in spite of chimping out. If you can't, like, you know, stand what I'm doing, and to the point that you're chimping out, You may not be entirely human. You might be of the demon species, you know. All right, here we go. Namaste. Kimasya mother Kimambasya Pita Binandraha Kimasya Sakya Chakara Rano Bang Ye Nishadi Kim Te Asya Purang Bividra Kimu Nu Dana Sah Sadasya mother Sadabasya Pita Binandraha Sadasya Sakya Chakara Rano bang ye nishadi sadate asya purang bibidre sadu tu dana sah nu dana sah. Alright, I'm gonna start from the beginning again. Kimasya made kimambasya pita binandraha kimasya sakye chakara Rano bang ye nishadi kim te asya purang bibidre kimu nu dana sah sadasya made sadvasya sadasya made sadvasya pita binandraha sadasya sakye chakara Rano bang ye nishadi sadate asya purang bibidre sadu nu dana sah Nahi tu te mahimanah samasya na makhavana makhavatavasya viduman. Nahi nu te mahimana. Nahi nu te mahimanah samasya na makhavana makhavatavasya viduman. Na ra tasorang taso. Na ra tasoda. Na ra tasorang taso nu danasyanandram. Nakil dasadrosham inandriyam tem. Na ra tasora taso nu danasyanandra nakil dadrosha inandriyam tem. Etatatatam etatatiatatam etatatiatatam inandriyamachati yana vatil vara shikasyan sheshoha Yena vatil vara shikasyam etatatiatatam inandriyamachati Yena vatil vara shikasyam sheshoha etatatiatatam inandriyamachati Yena vatil vara shikasyam sheshoha Vajrasyam yatate nihatasyam shushima tisavana chachinanda danandram dinandram paramo tadangaram Vajrasyam yatate nihatasyam sushima tisavana chachinandidram dinandram shushima tisavana chachidinandram shushima tisavana chachidinandram Vajrasyam yatate nihatasyam shushima tisavana chachinandidram chidinandram Vajrasyam yatate nihatasyam shushima tisavana chachidinandram paramo tadangaram Vati dinandro parashikasyam shikha Vati dinandro parashikasyam vishwapyam bhaktinem Jayamanaya shikashane Vati dinandro parashikasya vishwapyam bhaktinem Jayamanaya shikashane Puruchi vatum yadatari yubiyam ha는 볼we alte piyasa paro dalte once more almost done Puruchi vato yadatari yubiyam 하는 볼we alte piyasa paro dalte 드림샤츠 차담 발미나 드림샤츠 차담 발미나 이는드라 상악감 야비양 바티양 부르후타 슈라바시양 Puruchi Vanantaha Sharabe. Puruchi Vanantaha Sharabe Patyamanaha Patran Pinundana Yaltanya Yasya Kava Varushwa Suyabasu Vasium Anantaru Shu Charato Derihan Derihan Yasyam Kav Yasya Kava Varushwa Suyavasiu Anantaru Shu Charato Redihanum Sa Shirunjaya Tulvasham Parada Devuruchi Vato Daibaba Tanya Shikushona. Backing up one shlok, one sentence. Yasya Kava Varusha Suyavasiyu Anantaru Shu Charato Radihanum Sa Surunjaya Tulvasham Parada Vuruchi Vato Daibaba Tanya Shikushona. Once more. Sa Surunjaya Tulvasham Parada Vuruchi Vato Daibaba Tanya Shikushona. Daduvayam Agune Latino Vimshatim Gae Matu Mato Makava Mahyam Samurat Duvayam Agune Latino Vimshatim Gae Batu Mato Makava Mahyam Samurat Apya Balti Jayamano Dadati Tu no Shayam Takushwina Baltavanam Namaste. What deed hath Inandra done in the wild transport? What deed hath Inandra done in the wild transport, in quaffing or in friendship with the Soma? What joys have men of ancient times or risen obtained within the chamber of libation? In his wild joy, Inandra hath proved him faithful, faithful in quaffing, faithful in its friendship. His truth is the delight that in this chamber the men of old and recent times have tasted. All thy vast power, O Makhavan, we know not the riches of thy full abundance. No one hath seen that might of thine, productive of bounty, every day renewed, O Inandra. This one great power of thine our eyes have witnessed, wherewith thou slewest Varashvika's children. When by the force of thy descending thunder, at the mere sound, their boldest was demolished. In aid of Abhyavartin, Jayamana, Inandra destroyed the seat of Varashvika. At Hariyubhiya, he smote the vanguard of the Vrijivans, and the rear flat frighted. 3,000 mailed in quest of fame together on the Yavyangavad. 3,000 mailed in quest of fame together on the Yavyangavati, or much sought Inandra. Vrijivans' sons falling before the arrow, like bursting vessels went to their destruction. He whose two red steers, seeking goodly pasture, plying their tongues move on twixt earth and heaven, gave Tulvasha to Shirinjaya. He whose two red steers, seeking goodly pasture, plying their tongues move on twixt earth and heaven, gave Tulvasha to Shirinjaya, and to aid him gave the Vrijivans up to Bhagavatam. He whose two red steers, seeking goodly pasture, plying their tongues move on twixt earth and heaven, gave Tulvasha to Shirinjaya, and to aid him gave the Vrijivans up to Bhagavatam. 2 wagon teams with damsels 20 oxen o Agni, Abhyavartin Jayamana. The liberal sovereign giveth me, the guerdon of Britu's seed is hard to win from others. Okay. Upanishad next. I might have to do another Narasimha mantra. Narasimha mantra destroys everything. Here we go. Namaste. Pranueshu panchavitam parovariyaha samupasitam prano himkaro pakaprasata vashachakushurugi rudagitaha shrotam patiharo manonitanam parovariyama siva etani. Once more. Pranueshu panchavitam parovariyaha samupasitam prano himkaro Bhagavatam Vasachakushrudagitaha Bhagavatam Vasachakushrudagitaha Pranueshu Panchavitam Paravariyaha Samupasitam Prano Himkaro Bhagavatam Vasachakushrudagitaha Shrotram Partiharo Mano Nitanam Paravariyama Si Van Etani. Once more. Pranueshu panchavitam parovariyaha samupasitam prano himkaro bhagaprasata vasachakushrudagita. That's the problem. Rudagita. Pranueshu panchavitam parovariyaha samupasitam prano himkaro bhagaprasata Pranueshu panchavitam parovariyaha Pranueshu panchavitam parovariyaha samupasita prano himkaro bhagaprasata. I might have to take a break. Yeah, they won't stop harassing me. Pranueshu panchavitam parovariyaha samupasita prano himkaro Bhagaprasata Vashachakushrudagitaha Shrotaram Pratiharo Mano Nitanam Parovariyam Si Van Etani. Moving on. Not my fault. Parovariyam Parovariyam. I'm saying it's not my fault because you have no idea what consequences one might have, even brutally accidentally interrupting the reciter. Even accidentally interrupting the recital has dire consequences on the DNA to whom this thing belongs. Have I made myself clear? I hope so. Even, interrupting the reciter accidentally has dire consequences on the entire DNA belonging to the fucker. Means they're just not smart enough to live. Pranueshu panchavitam parovariyaha samupasitam prano himkaro bhagaprasata vashachakushrudagita. Yeah, I have to take a break. I'm sorry. I'm not really sorry. You got idiots who gets upset when you call them stupid. Yeah. All it means for me is just gonna drag on and on and on. See, I just want this. I wanted to finish right now, but you got idiots. You got stupid idiots. What do you do with idiots? What does God do with idiots? Namaste. Pranoeshu panchavitam parovariyah samopasita prano himkaro Bhagavatam Vasachakoshurudagitah Shrotaram Pratiharo Mano Nitanam Parovariyam Sivai Etani. Moving on. Paravariyo ha siya bhavati paravariyaso ha lokan jayati ya etadevam vidvanam pranoeshu panchavitam paravariyah samopasata iti tu panchavitasiyam. Namaste. Iti sabbatamaha kanandaha. In the vital breaths, one should reverence the most excellent fivefold Āmēn. Breath is a Hingankara, speech is a Prasadava, the eye is an Udagita, the ear is a Pratihara, the mind is an Nitana. Verily, these are the most excellent. The most excellent becomes his. He wins the most excellent world, who, knowing this thus, reverences the most excellent fivefold Āmēn in the vital breaths. So much for the fivefold. So much for the fivefold. Okay. Next and last, the Shrimad Bhagavatam. Let me double check and see if that's what I'm supposed to be reading. Hello, Mr. Roshan Soul Calm. I don't usually check comments, but alright, so I'm supposed to be reading Shrimad Bhagavatam today. Alright, I might take another break, I'm not sure. I know it's 49 shlokas. Okay. Yep, 49 shlokas. Alright, I'm gonna start and see if it's easy actually. Namaste. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Dvitiyo Dhyayah. Shri Shukam Vacham. Evam Te Bhagavadutam Yamaduta Pipa Shritam. Upatariya Tatana Rajana Pratya Hulnaya Kovidah. Tyahul. Upatariya Tatana Rajana Pratyam. Upatariya Tatana Rajana Pratya Hulnaya Kovidah. Vishnudutam Uchuha. Aho Kashatam Taimadura Shama Taimaha Sapurashate Sapama. Aho Kashatam Taimadura Shama Taimaha Sapurashate Sapama. Yatra Dananduye Shiva Pangapeshu. Yatra Dananduye Shiva Pangapeshu. Danandu Yail Triyate Brutum. Yail Triyate. Yatra Dananduye 야트라 다는도의 시바빵 빼슈 다는도 얄트리 야떼 부르탕엠 프라장하나엠 비타로 예장 샹아스땅아라흐 상아타바흐 사마흐 야디 시아트 테슈 와이셔미암 감 야난티 샤라남 프라장아흐 야디아당 자라티 시라야 니타라스 따뜻다 디하템 야디아당 자라티 시라야 니라 니타라 야디아당 자라티 시라야 니타라스 따뜻다 디하템 사 야트 프라망남 구루테 로카스타다누 발타템 사 야트 프라만am 구루테 로카스타다누 발타템 야시양은께 시람 사 야시양은께 시람 아타야 로카흐 스바피티 늘부르타흐 스바얌 달마마 달맘 망알 스바얌 달마마 달맘 망알 나히 베다 야탕에 바슈흐 사가탐 니아필땅 니알 사가탐 니알필땅 드망남 그렇다마이트라 마짜타사마 짜타나마 사가탐 니알필땅 드망남 그렇다마이트라 마짜타나마 비스라면 파누이요 부당남 사크르노 드로그 투 마이하티 드로그 투 마이하티 드로그 투 마이하티 비스람은 파누이요 부다남 사크루노 드로그 투 마이 하티 fucking stupid idiots 비스람은 파누이요 부다남 사크루노 드로그 투 마이 하티 비스람은 파누이요 부다남 사크루노 드로그 투 마이 하티 비사람은 파누이요 부당남 사크로노 드로그 투 마이 하티. Yeah, this is not my fault. I might, let me take a break. One more try. 비사람은 파누이요 부당남 사크로노 드로그 투 마이 하티. 비사람은 파누이요 부당남 사크르노 드로그 투 마이 하티 아얌 히 그렇다 닐베쇼 자는 맞고 또얌 하상마피 아얌 히 그렇다 닐베쇼 자는 맞고 또얌 함상마피 하염 하상마피 아얌 히 그렇다 닐베쇼 자는 맞고 또얌 함사마피 하사마피 아얌 히 그렇다 닐베쇼 자는 맞고 또얌 하사나피 아얌 히 그렇다 닐베쇼 자는 맞고 또얌 하사나마피 I have to take a break. I wish this torture, harassment, this chimping out fucking stop. Why are fuckers chimping out? Why are they fucking chimping out? They're fucking chimping out. I wish fuckers didn't chimp out every time I fucking, recite Sanskrit. Chimping out. Fuckers chimping out. Fucking chimping out. Here we go. Namaste. Ayam hi Gurutanilbesho Jalamakotoyam Hasamapip Yadabiyan Jahara Vivasho Yadabiyan Jahara Vivasho Nama Sivasityayanam Hareha Atanaiva Hyakonosia Atanaiva Hyakonosia Gurutam Siadakhi Deshakuratam Siadakai Atanaiva Hyakonosia Gurutam Siadakhanishakuratam Yadam Narayana Yati Jagada Jaturakusharama Yadam Narayana Yati Jagada Jaturakusharama Sitanaha Pura Sitanaha Suranapo Mitra Turug Brahmahai Guru Taripagaha Sitanaha Suranapo Mitra Turug Brahmahai Guru Taripagaha Sutri Raja Peter Gohanan Tangam Ye Cha Patakino Parem Sutri Raja Peter Gohanan Tangam Ye Cha Patakino Parem Saivesha Mapia Kanata Midameva Sunishakaratama Navavian Haranam Pishinorian Tasata Vishayang Matiha Namavian Haranam Pishinoria Tasata Vishayang Matiha Namavian Haranam Pishinoria Tasata Namavian Haranam Pishinoria Tasata Vishayang Matiha Na Nishikurata Rudita Brahma Badi Pisatang Vishudu. Oh no. Okay, just too long. Vishudu Tia Kabane Brata Di Piha. Na Nishikurata Rudita Brahma Badi Pisatang Vishudu Tia Kabane Brata Di Piha. Vishudu Tia Kabane. Na Nishikuratai Ruditai Brahma Vadi Pisatang Pishudatya Kavane Pratadi Piha Yatam Harenama Padai Rudana Hurutai Satadu Lama Shaloka Guno Palabum Pakama Yatam Harenama Padai Rudana Hurutasat Tai Satadu Tama Shaloka Guno Palamam Pakama Yatam Harenama Padai Ruda Hrutai Satadu Tama Shaloka Guno Palamam Pakama. Very hard. Yatam Harenama Padai Yatam Harenama Padai Ruda Hrutai Satadu Tama Shaloka Guno Palamam Pakama Yatam Harenama Padai Ruda Hrutai Satadu Tama Shaloka Guno Palamam Pakam Naikanantikam Tadati Gurute Pi Nishigurute Manaha Ponaltavati Jada Satapatem. Once more. Naikanantikam Tadati Gurute Pi Nishigurute Manaha Ponaltavati Jada Satapatem. Tadakalma Nilharama Pi Pusatam, Tadakalma Nilharama Pi Pusatam, Harelguna Nubadaha, Kalu Satatava Pavanaha. Once more. Tadakalma Nilharama Pi Pusaptam, Tadakalma Nilharama Pi Pusatam, Harelguna Nubadaha, Kalu Satatava Pavanaha. Atainam Mapanayanayatam Krata Sheshwa Khani Shikaratam Atainam Mapanayata Krata Sheshwa Khani Shikaratam Yadasa Bhagavananama Muriyamanoha Samagrahit Yadasa Bhagavananama Muriyamanoha Samagrahit Sanganketiyam Parihasyam Pan Sutopam Helanaben Namevan Pan Helanamevan Sanganketiyam Parihasyam Van Sutopam Helanamevan Pan. Once more. Sanganketiyam Parihasyam Pan Sutopam Helanamevan Pan. Vaikurantana Magarahana Mesha Sheshwa Kaharam Viduha Kaharam Vaikurantana Magarahana Sheshwa Kaharam Vaikurantana Magarahana Sheshwa Paha Kaharam Vaikurantana Magarahana Vaikurantana Magarahana Masheshwa Kaharam Viduha Patitaha Sakalito Paganaha Sanandashita Sutapata Hataha Hariditya Vashesha Hariditya Vashanaha Hariditya Vashanaha Pumana Nalhati Yatanama Hariditya Vashesha Hariditya Vashanaha Pumana Nalhati Yatanama Gurunam cha Lakunam cha Gurunui cha Lakuni cha Parayashachitani Papanam Jinyata Bogotani Maharshri Piha Taisitan Yakani Puyanante Tapodana Japadi Piha Na Taimajam Tadatrudayam Na Taimajam Tadatrudayam Tadapi Shang Krisavayam Ajinyana Datavai Jinyana Dudamash Yat Sangankilti Damakam Sangankilti Damakam Pumso Taheda To Yatana Sangankilti Damakam Pumso Tahede Sangankilti Damakam Pumso Tahede To Yatana Yatanagadam Biryatamanupa Yatanagadam Biryatamanupa Yadurchayam Ajanato Pyatamagunam Kuryana Manadro Pyudan Hrataha Shri Shukam Vancham Tam Evam Subinil Tam Evam Subinil Nuyam Taimam Bhagavatam Nirupam. So I said it correctly, but I did it by accident. Do I count that or not? That's my biggest question now. Ajanato Pyatamagunam Kuryana Manadro Pyudan Hrataha. Okay, so I don't need to. That's the verdict. I don't need to. Shri Shukam Vancham Sa Evam Subinil Nuya Taimam Bhagavatam Nirupam Tam Yamya Pashana Nilmutyam Pipuram Mrutyoramu Muchanan almost Mrutyoramu Muchanan Tam Yamya Pashana Nilmutyam Pipuram Mrutyoramu Muchanan Tam Yamya Pashana Nilmutyam Tam Yamya Pashana Nilmutyam Tam Yamya Pashana Nilmutyam Pipuram 무릎 띄어라 무무자는 땀 야미야 빵샤는 일무지야 땀 야미야 빵샤는 일무지야 비프람 무릎 띄어라 무무자는 이티 파라티우디땅 야미야 두땅 야드방 야마는 띠겜 야마라지니 여탕 살바마 짜짜꺼쇼라 리는다마 라마라지니 여탕 살바마 짜짜꺼쇼라 리는다마 짜짜꺼쇼라 리는다마 짜짜꺼 야마라지니 여탕 살바마 짜짜꺼쇼라 리는다마 야마라지니 여탕 살바마 짜짜꺼쇼 야마라지니 여탕 살바마 짜짜꺼쇼라 리는다마 야마라지니 여탕 살바마 짜짜꺼쇼라 리는다마 드비자흐 빵샤드 비닐 무쿠토 자가피 갔다 피허 파라크르팀 갔다 드비자흐 빵샤드 비닐 무쿠토 갔다 피허 파라크르팀 갔다 바바는데 시라상에 비슈누허 갱가라는 달샤노트 사바허 땀 비베쿠쇼마 비프라티 I wanna say this again. 바바는데 시라상에 비슈누허 갱가라는 달샤노트 사바허 바바는데 시라상에 비슈누허 갱가라는 달샤노트 사바허 땀 비바쿠쇼마 피프라티야 마하푸루샤 갱가라허 once more 갱 땀 비바쿠쇼마 피프라티야 마하푸루샤 갱가라허 상상을 바샤타스타시야 따뜻라는 달달 티레나캄 달달 티레 따뜻라는 달달 티레나캄 상상을 바샤타스타시야 따뜻라는 달달 티레나캄 almost 상상을 바샤타스타시야 따뜻라는 달달 티레나캄 아자밀로 비아타 깔노야 구두 아자밀로 비아타 깔노야 두다남 야마크르시노요흐 타이맘 바가와탐 슈두탐 드라이비디암 짱 구너시라야무 바가티마네 바가바티앙슈 마하드미아시라바노드 타레흐 almost 바가티마네 바가바티앙슈 마하드미아시라바노드 타레흐 아누땅포 마하나시트 스마라토 슈파마드마나흐 아누땅포 마하나시트 스마라토 슈파마드마나흐 Okay, I'm half done. Speed is excellent. Aho me paramam kashatama puda vijitanatamanaha pudam yena pipala vitam brahma purushalyam jayata. Backing up one sentence. Aho me paramam kashatama puda vijitanatamanaha yena pipala vitam brahma purushalyam jayata tamanam 탱에 마음 비가 히땀 세대 필도 시끄럽담 꿀라까지 잘라면 탱에 마음 비가 히땀 사대 필도 탱에 마음 비가 히땀 사대 필도 시끄럽담 꿀라까지 잘라면 tongue twister because of the preceding. This word becomes a tongue twister because of preceding potencies, energies. 탱에 마음 비가 히땀 사대 필도 시끄럽담 꿀라까지 잘라면 이트방에 발람 사팀 요함 수라빠 마사티 마가는 not Hitavai Balam. Hitavai. Oh my god, I sound like a dying soldier in a battle, shaking. Balam. Hitavai Balam. Satim. Yoham. Surapa Masati Magam. Meow. Imagine speaking perfect Aryan Sanskrit while in the field of battle, Kurukshetra, when you're dying, you know. Balam. Sorry. It's memories from my soul, I guess. I'm getting a little tired. 49, I know that already. So 20, 23, 22 left. Alright, I'll do a couple more and I'll take another break. Buddha Tavana Tao Pitarao Nanya Banantu Tapasabinao Aho Maya Tuna Yakata Bakurata Chinyana Ni Jabat Aho Maya Tutan. Going one sentence back. Buddha Tavana Tao Pitarao Nanya Banantu Tapasabinao Aho Maya Tuna Aho Maya Tuna Yakata Bakurata Chinyana Ni Jabat Aho Maya Tuna Yakata Bakurata Chinyana Ni Jabat Soham Vyakatam Parishuyami Kara Narakem Purushadarunuem Soham Vyakatam Patishuyami Narake Purushadarunuem Talmakuna Talmakna Kamino Yatra Binandananti Yamayatana Talmakna Kamino Yatra Binandananti Yamayatana. Why am I messing up Dana? Talmakna Kamino Yatra Binandananti Yamayatana Kimidam Sevapana Ahosvitus Hakushad Shirtamihad Putama. Kuvan Yang Time Adia Te Ye Mam Pyakashana Pashapano Yahu. See, like I said this by accident. It was an accident that I said it correctly. Do I go back? Out of respect, I should. I think. Kimidam Sevapana Ahosvit. No, I am not supposed to go back. That's the thing about spoken Sanskrit. So I'm gonna move on. It's in the record. It's registered with the earth. Every time you utter Aryan Sanskrit, the earth knew about it beforehand. So I'm at 31. I'm gonna back up one shloka anyway, because I love what I'm doing. And I'm gonna take a break. And it should be the last break. I have only 20 shlokas left. Thank you. Speed is excellent. Wow. So for my own future reference, even if I said it accidentally correctly, I'm supposed to move on because I am not doing this ultimately for myself, but for God. Okay, here we go. But took a break. I'm gonna back up one shloka. Otherwise, Kimidam Sivapana Hosabit Kimidam Sivapana Hosabit Sa Kushad Durashatamihad Putama Kimidam Sivapana Hosabit Sa Kushad Durashatamihad Putama. Because yeah, I think if I say it accidentally correctly, that's probably God saying it through me, so I shouldn't interrupt God. Now I know. Kimidam Sevapana Hosavita Sa Kushad Durashata Mihad Putama Kava Yantam Adia Te Ye Mam Byakashana Pashapano Yahu Atha Te Kava Katah Siddha Sharat Shachatavara Shacharu Darshana Atha te kava kata siddha shajatva rachata charu darshana. Atha te kava kata siddha shajatva rachacharu darshana. Pyamuchayana niyamanam badatuvaya pashairato puvah. Atha pi me tulvagasyam Vipudototama darshane Athapi me dulpagasya Vipudototama darshane Pavitavyam Mangalena Yena Dhamma me prasidati Anyathaim Muriyamanasya Na Shuchal Vuroshali Pateha Shuchal Anyathaim Muriyamanasya Na Shuchal Vuroshali Pat. So yeah, I said it correctly because of God. Anyathaim Muriyamanasya Na Shuchal Vuroshali Pateha Vaikunantanam Grahanam Vaikunantanam Grahanam Jihuvang Pakutumihai Hati Pakutumihai Hati Vaikunantana Magarahanam Vaikunantana Magarahanam Jihuvang Pakutumihai Hati Pakutumihai Hati Vaikunantana Magarahanam Vaikunantana Magarahanam Jihuvang Pakutumihai Hati Vaikunantana Magarahanam Vaikunantana Magarahanam Jihuvang Pakutumihai Hati. Once more. Vaikunantana Magarahanam Jihuvang Pakutumihai Hati Vaikunantana Magarahanam Jihuvang Pakutumihai Hati Vaikunantana Magarahanam Jihuvang Pakutumihai Hati. Okay, moving on. Kava Jaham Kitavaha Papo Brahma Knom Nirapatrapaha Brahma Knom Kava Jaham Kitavaha Papo Brahma Knom Nirapatrapaha Kava Jaham Kitavaha Papo Brahma Knom Kava Jaham Kitavaha Papo Brahma Knom Nirapatrapaha Kava Jan Narayanuetia Dadu Bhagavanam Mangalama Kava Jan Narayanue Kava Jan Narayanuetia Dadu Bhagavanam Kava Jan Narayanuetia Dadu Bhagavanam Mangalama Soham Tatane Yati Shuyami Yata Chetanandriya Nilahu Yatai na puya atmana manante tamasi majajayam. Vimuchya tamimam panantama vidya kama kaimajama. Sarva Bhuta Suhracha Chananto Maitraha Karuna Atmavana Muchaya Kurasatama Atmanam Yoshvana Maya Atmamayayam Pikri Dvito Jayaivanham Krida Muraga Iva Tamaha almost. Vikri Dvito Jayaivanham Krida Muraga Iva Tamaha Mama Hamiti Tehadao Hitavang Mityal Ta Til Matima Mama Hamiti Tehadao Hitavang Mityal Mama Hamiti Tehadao Hitavang Mityal Ta Til Matima Tasya Mano Bhagavati Shuddhatam Tadakil Danadi Piha. I could read that again. Tasya Mano Bhagavati Shuddhatam Tadakil Danadi Piha. Shri Shuvukang Mubangchang Iti Jata Sunil Deva Bedaha Iti Jata Sunil Bedaha Kushana Sangangana Satushu Ganga Devara Mupeyaya Mukuta Salvana Nubanan Tanaha Tasmina Devasadana Asino Yogama Shiritaha Pratya Hurutanen Duriyagramo Yuyojam Mana Atmani. So half of whatever I just read, I said it accidentally. Pratya Hurutanen Duriyagramo Yuyoja Mana Atmani. Tato Gunoepia Atmanam Piyujya Atmasa Samatinai. Tatom Gunoepia Atmanam Piyujya Atmasamatinai. Yuyuja Bhagavatamani Brahmanoya Nupavatamani. Yalhyoparatati Satasminana Durai Kurakushvita Purushvana Puraham. Look at that word. Alright. Fewer than 10 shlokas left. Kinda like home stretch. Yalhyoparatati Tasminana Durai Kurakushvita Purushvana. Yalhyoparatati Yalhyoparatati Satasmina Naduraku Shrita Purusha Nalhyoparatati Satasmina Naduraku Shrita Purusha Puraha Upala Pyopala Patana Praga Vavananda Shirasai Devijaha. I could read that again. Upala Pyopala Patana Praga Vavananda Shirasai Devijaha. Hitavai Kalevaram Tilte Gangangayam Dashana Danu. Danu. Hitavai Kalevaram Tilte Gangangayam Dashana Danu. Sadhyaha Sivarupam Jaguruhe Bhagavata Panshava Baltinama. Sadhyaha Sivarupam Jaguruhe Bhagavata Panshava Baltinama. Sadhyaha Sivarupam Jaguruhe Bhagavata Panshava Baltinama. Sakam Vihayasai Vipuro Mahapurusha Kingaraiha Haimam Bimanamam Ruhya Yayao Yatra Shriyaha Pati haimam bimanama ruhya yayao yatra shriyaha patiha. 5 shlokas left. That's all 2 long ones, so I might have trouble with these 2. Evam sa pipla vita salva taima ta sia he patiha patito kalhia kaimano nipatiamano niraye hatta vrataha sadio bimukuto bhagavanama guruhunana. That was really poor. Nipatiamano niraye Nipatiamano niraye hatta vrataha sadio bimukuto Bhagavanama Guruhunana. Nipatiamano niraye hatta vrataha sadio bimukuto Bhagavanama Guruhunana. Nipatiamano niraye hatta vrataha sadio bimukuto Bhagavanama Guruhunana. Nataha param kamani banantam Gurunam Tanam Nataha Param Kamani Banantat Gurun Tanam Mumbukushotam Til Tapadanu Kil Tanam Nat Nataha Param Kamani Banantakar Nataha Param Kamani Banantakarun Tanam Mumbukushotam Til Tapadanu Kil Tanat. That was okay. I didn't like it though. One more. Nataha param kamani banantakarun tanam mumukushatam tiltapada nukil tanat. Na yatupunaha kaimasu sajajato mano rajasutam mopyam kalilam tato nyatam. Na yatupunaha kaimasu sajajate mano rajasutam mopyam kalilam tato nyatam. One more. Na yatupunaha kaimasu sajajate mano rajan sitamopyam. Na yatupunaha kaimasu sajajate mano rajasitamopyam kalilam tato nyatam. Ya evam paramam guhyam mitiha samatha paham. Ya evam paramam guhyam mitiha samakha paham. Ya evam paramam guhyam mitiha samakha paham. Shurunu yang chrat thayam yukuto yashacha bhagatiya kil tayat. Shurunu yang chrat thayam yukuto yashacha bhagatiya kil tayat. 2 more. Na pai sa narakam yati nakushuito yamaking karaiha. Yadia pia mangangalo maltiom vishnu loke mahiyatem. Muriyamano harelnama gurunana putropacharitam. Muriyamano harelnama gurunana putropacharitam tama. Putropacharitam. Muriyamano harelnama gurunana putropacharitam. Once more. Muriyamano harelnama gurunana putropacharitam. Ajamilo bhagadatama kim punaha shradataya gurunana. That's it. Once more. Ajamilo bhyaga. Wow, so God really, yeah, it's not just me speaking, reading it. Ajamilo bhagadatama kim punaha shradataya gurunana. Okay, that's it. Namaste. Thank you. Namaste. The birds chirping at the same time. Iti Shrimad Bhagavate Mahapuranoe Paramahamsyam Samhitayam Shashutasakanantam Ajamilopakhyane Tvitiyo Tyayaha. I'm gonna read that one more time. Shashtasakanante Iti Shrimad Bhagavate Mahapuranoe Paramahamsyam Samhitayam Shashtasakanante. Just as soon as I said Shashtasakanante, the second time. Iti Shrimad Bhagavate Mahapuranoe Paramahamsyam Samhitayam Shashtasakanante Ajamilopakhyane Tvitiyo Tyayaha. Read that one more time. I can't believe I can't read this. I cannot believe I can't read this. Iti Shrimad Bhagavate Mahapuranoe Paramahamsyam Samhitayam Shashtasakanante Ajamilopakhyane Tvitiyo Tyayaha. Namaste. Okay, so if you just came by to listen to Sanskrit, I am done reciting Sanskrit. I'm gonna take another break. I wish I had more alcohol. Yeah, I'm gonna read the translation. Whatever I read should be around 100% accurate. At least 95% accurate. Okay. So 2 minutes and then translate the translation. There's no physical copy of the translation, digital copy of the translation, so I have to read from the physical translation. Thank you. I'm just gonna look at what I'm supposed to. I'm gonna take a break. Yeah, it's gonna take me about 20 minutes. That's just the translation. So I read super fast. Yeah, okay. So 2 minutes and then the translation. The translation, once again, will take about 20 minutes to get through. Thank you. Okay, here we go. Oh yeah, I'm gonna switch mic. Yeah, this one's better if I'm reading from a physical book. Here we go. Discourse 2. Shri Shuka went on. Having thus heard and followed the dissertation of the messengers of Yama, the aforesaid messengers of the Lord, who were masters of the moral science, now reply to them, O King. The messengers of Vishnu said, Oh, what a pity that unrighteousness should penetrate the court of the knowers of Taima, where punishment is unnecessarily inflicted by those very knowers of Taima on sinless people who do not deserve any. If iniquity appears in those who are protectors and teachers of the people, and are beneficent and even-minded, whom shall the people resort to for protection? Whatever a superior man does, that very thing the common man does. The people follow that which the former sets up as a standard. Like a brute, the common man himself has no knowledge of righteousness or unrighteousness, and sleeps at ease, resting his head on the lap of another. How can it be worthy of the latter, if he is full of compassion and deserves the confidence of living beings, to seek to harm the unwary world that has I messed up. How can it be worthy of the latter, if he is full of compassion and deserves the confidence of living beings, to seek to harm the unwary world that has thrown itself entirely at his mercy, reposing trust on him? Sorry, so I'm being, I guess, interrupted again. So, not my fault. No one and if I'm making any mistakes, none of it is my fault anymore. And I'm gonna keep saying it. How can it be worthy of the latter, if he is full of compassion and deserves the confidence of living beings, to seek to harm the unwary world that has thrown itself entirely at his mercy, reposing trust on him? This man has actually done atonement, even for sins committed through millions of lives, in that he uttered, though in a helpless state, the name of Shri Hari, which is a means to the attainment of felicity. The atonement for the sins of the sinner must have been made by the mere fact that he pronounced a mere semblance of the four-syllable name of the Lord, Narayana, while exclaiming, Narayana, come. The articulation of a name of Lord Vishnu, that is the only thorough atonement for the sins of all classes of sinners, be he a thief, a drinker, one guilty of treachery to a friend, a Brahmana slayer, one sharing the bed of a preceptor's wife, a slayer of a woman, a king, one's own parent, or a cow, or whatever other sinners there may be. For thereby the Lord's mind is directed towards the utterer. And he added some more words. A sinner is not purified to that extent through fasting and other processes of expiation recommended by the expositors. Sorry, I'm not well. A sinner is not purified to that extent through fasting and other processes of expiation recommended by the expositors of the Veda, as he is by words standing as names for Shri Hari, articulated. For the utterance of such words puts him in mind of the attributes of the glorious Lord. For the process of expiation is not complete if one's mind runs back to evil ways even after the sad process has been gone through. Therefore, in the case of those seeking the eradication of their sinful karma, the uttering of the praises of Shri Hari is the only remedy, for the same undoubtedly purifies the mind. Therefore, do not take by a wrong path this man, who has done atonement for all sins, in that he articulate. Therefore, do not take by a wrong path this man, who has done atonement for all sins, in that he articulated the Lord's name in full, and at a time when he was about to die. The learned recognize the articulation of a name of Lord Vishnu as capable of eradicating all one's sins, even when it is intended to denote someone else, or when it is uttered jestingly, or as an interjection in the midst of a song, or out of disrespect. A man who articulates the word Hari involuntarily, when fallen down, stumbled, bitten, heated, injured, or when he has broken a limb, no longer deserves torment. Arduous and easy processes of expiation have been thoughtfully prescribed by the great sages in the case of great and small sins. Those sins are got rid of by the set processes of expiation, such as austere penance, charity, and japa, but not the kernel of those sins, which is traceable to the unrighteous acts. Those impressions too are obliterated through the service of the Lord's feet. Those impressions too are obliterated through the service of the Lord's feet. 18. Any name of the Lord of excellent renown, which is distinctly pronounced, knowingly or unknowingly, destroys a man's sins as a fire consumes the fuel. The translator added so many words. Just as a medicine possessing the highest potency is sure to produce its salutary, I cannot say salutary. 19. Just as a medicine possessing the highest potency is sure to produce, just as a medicine possessing the highest potency is sure to produce its salutary effect, even on one who is unaware. I was trying up here. Just as a medicine possessing the highest potency is sure to produce its salutary effect, even on one who is unaware of its efficacy, though taken by chance, so does the Lord's name reveal its efficacy, even in the case of it's the music. I hate this music. Alright. It's copyright-free music. Okay. 19 again. Just as a medicine possessing the highest potency is sure to produce its salutary effect, even on one who is unaware of its efficacy, though taken by chance, so does the Lord's name reveal its efficacy, even in the case of him who is unaware of it, when uttered by him casually. Shri Shuka resumed. Having thus expounded in a well-reasoned and conclusive way the cult of devotion of the Lord, to the Lord, Having thus expounded in a well-reasoned and Having thus expounded in a well-reasoned and conclusive way the cult of devotion to the Lord, O King, and Shri Shuka resumed. Having thus expounded in a well-reasoned and conclusive way the cult of devotion to the Lord, O King, and extricated the said Brahmana from the noose of Yama, the messengers of Lord Vishnu secured his release from death. Thus foiled in controversy, the messengers of Yama returned to the presence of Yama and faithfully reported everything to King Yama, O subduer of foes. Disentangled from the noose it's the words in between words. There's so many words in between sentence words. Disentangled from the noose and rid of fear, the Brahmana was his former self again, and delighted with their sight, bowed his head to the servants of Lord Vishnu. Perceiving him eager to speak, the servants of Bhagavan Vishnu suddenly disappeared at that spot, even as he looked on, O sinless one. Having heard from the mouth severally of the messengers of Shri Krishna and Yama an exposition of the cult of devotion to the Lord, which is untainted by the three guna. I can't say three. Are you kidding me? Perceiving him eager to speak, the servants of Bhagavan Vishnu suddenly disappeared at that spot, even as he looked on, O sinless one. Having heard from the mouth severally of the messengers of Krishna and Yama an exposition of the cult of devotion to the Lord, which is untainted by the three gunas, and the path of worldly activity taught by the three Vedas, Ajamila too now soon conceived devotion to the Lord as a result of hearing the glories of Shri Hari, and great was his repentance as he recollected his sin. 4 lines is the translators added words. Poison. I'm gonna read it again. Having heard from the mouth severally of the messengers of Kurushana and Yama an exposition of the cult of devotion to the Lord, which is untainted by the three gunas, and the path of worldly activity taught by the three Vedas, Ajamila too now soon conceived devotion to the Lord as a result of hearing the glories of Shri Hari, and great was his repentance as he recollected his sin. Oh, it was the worst tragedy for me, who forfeited my Brahmanhood by being born. See, he's adding so many words. Oh, it was the worst tragedy. I can't say it worst. Oh, it was the worst tragedy for me, who forfeited my Brahmanhood by being born through a Shudra woman, because of my being unable to curb myself. Fie upon my wicked self, condemned by good men, the blood of my race, who kept an unchaste wench given to drinking, having abandoned a faithful wife who was yet very young. I'm gonna take a break. Shloka 26, doing my little Simha mantra. I just saw an atheist. An atheist is the worst. The worst people are atheists. Oof. Took a nice break. Should be able to go on without interruption. Sloka 19. Sloka 26. Oh, it was the worst tragedy for me, who forfeited my Brahmanhood by being born through a Shudra woman because of my being unable to curb myself. Fie upon my wicked self, condemned by good men, the blood of my race, who kept an unchaste wench given to drinking, having abandoned a faithful wife who was yet very young. All my aged parents who were without a protector and had no other relation and were much inflicted, were forthwith deserted by my ungrateful self as by a vile man. As such, I shall surely fall into a most dreadful hell, where lustful men who have violated Dharma suffer tortures inflicted by Yama. I'll read it again. O my aged as such I shall surely fall into a most dreadful hell, where lustful men who have violated I can't say violated anymore. As such I shall surely fall into a most dreadful hell, where lustful men who have violated Dharma suffer tortures inflicted by Yama. Was this wonder seen by me in a dream, or with my own eyes here? Where have they now gone, who proceeded to tear me from my body, noose in hand? Again, where have those four angelic persons gone, who were good-looking and got me released, while I was being taken to the infernal regions, fastened with nooses? Though I have been so accursed, yet I must have earned extraordinary merit, which blessed me with the sight of those foremost gods, as a result of which my mind is so calm and cheerful. Otherwise my tongue, the tongue of an impious fellow, who kept the Shudra woman, was not fit to utter the name of Lord Vishnu, the only means of capturing him. Yeah, I'm tired. Yeah. At least I got to finish the Sanskrit. Otherwise, my tongue, the tongue of an impious fellow, who kept the Shudra woman, was not fit to utter the name of Lord Vishnu, the only means of capturing him. Music gets loud and not loud. Otherwise my tongue, the tongue of an impious fellow, who kept the Shudra woman, was not fit to utter the name of Lord Vishnu, the only means of capturing him, in this helpless state, and at a time when I was on the verge of death. The two stood poles asunder, myself a wicked swindler, lost to shame, who violated his Brahmanhood, and the auspicious name of the Lord, Narayana. I'm gonna read it. The two stood poles asunder, myself a wicked swindler, lost to shame, who violated his Brahmanhood, and the auspicious name of the Lord, Narayana. Having control of my mind in indriyas and breath, I shall as such so endeavor that I may not drown myself in the blinding gloom of transmigration again. Having controlled my mind in indriyas and breath, I shall as such so endeavor that I may not drown myself in the blinding gloom of transmigration again. Having got rid of the bondage of mundane existence, so well known and resulting from ignorance, and from the craving for the gratification of the senses and activity. 36 and 37. I hate it when they combine shlokas. Having got rid of the bondage of mundane existence, so well known, and resulting from ignorance, and from the craving for the gratification of the senses and activity, benevolent to all living beings, free from craving for the pleasures of senses, friendly and compassionate, and with mind fully controlled, I shall redeem myself, completely dominated as I am by the Lord's Maya in the shape of a woman, by whom my wretched self has indeed been fully toyed with, even as an animal kept for pleasure. Okay, so that was 36 and 37 combined. I hate when they combine it, because there's no break. I'm gonna read it again, because having got rid of the bondage of mundane existence, so well known, and resulting from ignorance, and from the craving for the gratification of the senses and activity, benevolent to all living beings, free from craving for the pleasures of sense, friendly and compassionate, and with mind fully controlled, I shall redeem myself, completely dominated as I am by the Lord's Maya in the shape of woman, by whom my wretched self has indeed been fully toyed with, even as an animal kept for pleasure, Giving up the sense of I and mine in relation severally to the body and whatever is connected with it, and with my thought fixed on the giving up the sense of I and mine in relation severally to the body and whatever is connected with it, and with my thought fixed on the real substance, I shall devote giving up the sense of I and mine in relation severally to the body and whatever is connected with it, and with my thought fixed on the real substance, I shall devote my mind to the Almighty Lord, when it has been purified by chanting His names and praises and other ways of devotion. 39. Shri Shuka began again. Having thus conceived a thorough aversion to the pleasures of sense, thanks to a moment's association with the pious servants of Lord Vishnu, and throwing off all fetters, Ajamila retired to Ganga Dwara. Settling down at that holy place, and betaking himself to the path of yoga, he withdrew all his senses and fixed his mind on the Supreme Self. Then, dissociating the mind from the body and senses, etc., through concentration of the same, he devoted it to the essence of the Lord, Brahman, that is all consciousness. When his mind was irrevocably, I can't say it, sorry, my injury, and I'm tired, irrevocably. 42. When his mind was irrevocably fixed on the aforesaid Brahman, the Brahmana beheld in front of him the same persons, and recognizing them as seen before, bowed his head to them. I'll read it again, sorry. When his mind was irrevocably fixed on the aforesaid Brahman, the Brahmana beheld in front of him the same persons, and recognizing them as seen before, bowed his head to them. Having quitted his body at that sacred place, on the bank of the Ganga. See, the reason why I'm breaking up is I don't want to read any of his supplied words. I don't want to read any of his crap. Alright, 43. Having quitted his body at that sacred place, on the bank of the Ganga, after their sight, he forthwith assumed the body similar to the form of the Lord's attendants. Mounting an aerial car made of gold, the Brahmana ascended with those servants of Lord Vishnu through the heavens to the realm where resides the spouse of Shri. I'm gonna read it again. Mounting an aerial car made of gold, the Brahmana ascended with those servants of Lord Vishnu through the heavens to the realm where resides the spouse of Shri. So half the sentence that I just read is riddled with the translator's words. Like 50% of the words are not Sanskrit. In this way, that Brahmana who, consequent on his having kept a woman of the menial class, had transgressed all his sacred duties and broken his vows. I'm gonna be the 45. That's a long shloka. In this way, that Brahmana who, consequent on his having kept a woman of the menial class, had transgressed all his sacred duties and broken his vows, and who had not only fallen due to his reprehensible conduct, but was going to be cast to hell, was at once completely freed by uttering the divine name. For those seeking liberation, there is nothing more efficacious in cutting the wood of sin than chanting the name and glories of Lord Vishnu. Thanks to the chanting of his names, the mind does not get attached to actions again, whereas it remains tainted with rajas and tamas after purificatory processes other than this have been gone through. I'll read that again. It's an important sentence. 46, 49 is the last one, and they combine 47 and 48. I hate when they combine shlokas. For those seeking liberation, there is nothing more efficacious in cutting the wood of sin than chanting the name and glories of Lord Vishnu. Thanks to the chanting of his names, the mind does not get attached to actions again, whereas it remains tainted with rajas and tamas, where after purificatory processes other than this have been gone through. I'll read the last sentence. Thanks to the chanting of his names, the mind does not get attached to actions again, whereas it remains tainted with rajas and tamas after purificatory processes other than this have been gone through. 47 and 48 next. He who, full of reverence, hears this legend, which is a most profound secret, and is capable of destroying one's sins, as well as he who repeats it with devotion, never goes to hell, nor dare the servants of Yama look at him. However accursed he may have been, such a mortal is adored in Vaikuntha. Even Ajamila, who uttered, while dying, the name of Shri Hari, and that too in its secondary application as denoting his son. Last shloka once again, 49. Even Ajamila, who uttered while dying the name of Shri Hari, and that too in its secondary application as denoting his son, ascended to the Lord's abode. What wonder then if one who pronounces it with reverence should attain to his abode? That's it. Thus ends the second discourse, forming part of the story of Ajamila in Book 6 of the great and glorious Bhagavata Purana, otherwise known as the Paramahamsa Samhita. Very difficult. Yeah, I wish nobody chimped out, every time I'm doing this. I wish nobody chimped out. That's my wish. So dear God, please let no one chimp out while I'm doing this. Thank you. In King Yahusha's name. Jesus' real name. Āmēn. Have a good night. Shabbat in 3.5 hours.